Hello everyone, this is our classical conditioning project. Our subject is Quinn Geyer. Our assistants are Brandon Zhang and Sebastian Brown. Quinn is an optimal subject for testing the concepts of acquisition in our experiment by associating the previously harmless greeting phrase, "How you doin'?" with the malicious act of tasing. We will condition Quinn to associating an aversive reaction to the greeting. Eventually, we will isolate and only express the "how you doin" phrase without the tasing, with the anticipation that Quinn will flinch regardless. Here are subjects and participants. Before conditioning. Before being conditioned, Brandon approaches Quinn and says, "How you doin'?" Of course, without prior reason to expect any other meaning to the phrase besides a normal introduction. Quinn just answers it normally. Little does he know. Conditioning. Repeated many times over. Every time we would see Quinn over the course of the next 2 weeks, we would say, "How you doin'?" and then immediately tase him. This process causes him to associate the phrase with being tased, and thus flinch in reaction to avoid getting tased. In terms of classical conditioning, this is called acquisition, developing a new association between stimuli. Conditioned. After sufficient exposure, Quinn has now been conditioned, trained to expect being tased. Even without us taking the action of trying to tase him, he flinches because he associates those words with being tased anyways. Conditioned. Despite being conditioned, Quinn will not respond to other phrases, even ones with similar meanings, like, "You okay?" This is called discrimination, because he has been trained specifically with one single specific phrase, so other phrases have minimal effect. If he were trained to expect to be tased after any phrase asking how he is feeling, this would be called generalization, broadening a trigger stimulus to include similar stimuli. No tasing, repeated many times over. Now that he's been repeatedly exposed to the triggering phrase, but as shown, not being tased, his association and thus his conditioning is weakening without reinforcement. The deterioration of associations without reinforcement is a process called extinction. 6 months later. After a long time without reinforcement or the presence of either stimuli, 6 months later, when the triggering phrase is said again, Quinn again exhibits the reaction once thought extinct. This phenomenon is called spontaneous recovery.